Hi, my name is Mike Stavarin. This is going to be video response number 4, and the video that I chose to speak about was the debate highlighting Jordan Peterson. He spoke a lot about the sovereignty of the individual, and he also spoke a lot on how history is being identified throughout bigger universities today. And what he said considering history is that throughout time, history has been looked at as different groups of people making different movements, and the groups are always interchanging. The groups are always becoming more powerful. Some groups are taking over, some groups are falling off. However, history has always been defined in terms of people, not in terms of individuality, but in terms of groups. And something else that he also says is that groups are about the progression of groups through history. It's just they're defined in battles. So again, it's just that conflict of power, and that's just how societies move forward, and that's how it's going to be viewed in a lot of historical classrooms today. He doesn't like that. I can tell that he doesn't like the idea of that, just because he spoke also a lot about the sovereignty of the individual, how people are not defined by the so-called group that they're placed in beforehand, or the group that might represent them, which maybe they don't intend to be represented by. However, it's just a part of history, and he says it's happened for forever. So he does not like the idea of freedom of speech in consideration of groups. He thinks person to person is a much better way to, on an individual plane, reconstruct ideas of your person, or reconstruct ideas that make sense to your personal self, which I totally agree with. I think in terms of free speech, you have to be a lot more fluid, and if you are trying to consider more than a 1-to-1 person ratio in terms of argumentation, it's going to be difficult to assess the thoughts and consideration of everybody's needs. So that is something I really did like when he said that. I thought it was very interesting. Something else he also goes on to say is just, again, he talks about how your opinion is more of your group's opinion rather than your personal belief. And that through schools now, it's just viewed as more of a group dominating group, a man dominating woman society, especially in the Western civilization, or it was about the Western civilization, yes. So just more of a man's take, weaker men, men overpower women, and that's what history is being just portrayed through bigger universities today. And personally, after going through my personal schooling, just from kindergarten, and then you learn all of your basic history courses through high school and college and stuff like that, I tend to agree. I mean, there are definitely a lot of examples of that, of how history is definitely defined by groups. However, I believe that is also a necessary requirement to speak about these groups of people, especially in terms of history, because something that he said at the very beginning of his debate was that what is not understood can always be learned, and what is not constructed well can always be set right. Now, those words, in consideration to other peoples and other for so-called groups, the Western civilization, the idea of the manifestation of Western peoples was simply the taking of land from different groups of people that were there before. And from my view, you can't portray it any other way. These people are already here. We just decided to come over, take land, and then write our own history about it. And so I can understand why views would be skewed after such a long time, because history doesn't change, but our perception of history definitely does. So again, a lot of good points made by Jordan Peterson, and he's definitely someone that I'm going to look into more in terms of personal opinion.